Thomas Merton was born on 31st January 1915. He was ordained to the priesthood on the May 26, 1949. He died on 10th December 1968 in Thailand. He was an American Trappist monk, a writer, a mystic, a theologian, a poet, a scholar of comparative religion. I would like to speak about his idea about prayer, contemplation for our life in this world. Thomas Merton speaks about two monks who are in the monastery working on themselves for perfection. And he speaks in this context the conflict of these two monks he calls eternal conflict. A monk works on himself and he delivers himself from the world by sheer effort. And then he feels qualified and certain and sure of himself, and he calls down curse upon the people. And the other monk was kind of a person, compassionate, and who identifies himself with the sinful and the suffering world, and he calls upon the world blessings. And the second type of monk can well flourish in offbeat of situation, even in the midst of the world. Perhaps such monks do much good in their lives and in the lives of others. The structures have their importance in any institution. Now we have seen two monks. A first monk who works on himself and reaches a perfection, and he curses the people. And the second monk, compassionate, works on himself and by grace of God reaches a perfection and he blesses others. It is better to bless than to curse. God came to bless us. Public and private prayer. The climate of this prayer is then one of awareness, gratitude, and total obedience of love, which seeks nothing but pleases only God. We find the same simplicity in the chapter 52 of the Rule of St. Benedict. Talks about personal prayer or private prayer. If anyone should wish to pray secretly, let him just go in and pray, not in a loud voice, but with the tears and favor of the heart. The climate of prayer suggested in this traditional expression, tears and favor of heart, is one of compunction and love. It is a type of intimate prayer of union with God. Then the rule asserts quite naturally the individual monk may pray by himself. Again, in the same chapter 52 of Rule of St. Benedict, we read that when the work of God is finished, let all go out in deep silence and let reverence for God be observed, so that any brother who wishes to pray privately may not be hindered by another misbehavior. What happens in personal prayer As in chapter 20 of St. Benedict Rule, it is a supplication in humility and with devotion of purity. It is a prayer not of much of speaking, but purity of heart and purity of compunction. In the monastery of St. Benedict, there used to be a monk who used to pray in a particular place most of the time. It helped that monk to pray well and to make much progress in his prayer life. The place of prayer is very important in one's life of prayer. If you like a particular place for prayer, make use of that place for prayer. Private prayer for St. Basil is a prayer that is carried on while the ascetic is at work or going about doing his ordinary duties. St. Basil also talks about the manual work, which can quite easily be united with any form of prayer. It can also be true of apostolic form of prayer. Though we are not speaking explicitly here about the formal liturgical prayer, the formal liturgical prayer has its great value in our devotion and in our prayer of praise to God. We must approach our meditation realizing that grace, mercy, and faith are not permanent, inalienable possessions which we gain by our effort and retain as though by right, provided that we have ourselves. Grace, mercy, and faith are constantly renewed gifts. The life of grace in our hearts is renewed from moment to moment, directly and personally by God in His love for us. Hence, the grace of meditation is also a special gift for us. It should never be taken for granted that God, in His kindness and mercy, gives us grace and mercy and faith, and He renews it again and again. Once we have faith, mercy, and grace, does not mean we are always enjoying them. We may lose these gifts at times, but they are renewed in us by prayer, meditation, and contemplation. The gift of prayer is inseparable from grace and that of humility, which makes us realize the very depth of our being. Life is meaningful and real only insofar as they are oriented towards God as their source and their end. The love of God requires two things: love in the heart and productive virtue. So we must work in the exercise of virtue and love in the sweetness of spiritual experience. The discipline of virtue consists in a certain way of life, in fasting, in vigils, in manual work, in reading, and nourished on a solitary meditation. In order that this sweet love of Jesus may grow in our heart, you must practice threefold meditation: in memory of the past, then awareness of present things, concern for future things. Our desire and our prayer should be summed up in the words of St. Augustine: may I know you, may I know myself. May I know you, God, may I know myself. We wish to gain a true knowledge of ourselves and the world, so as to understand the meaning of our life as children of God, redeemed from sin and death. We wish to gain a true knowledge of God, our Father and Redeemer. we wish to lose ourselves in His love and rest in Him. We wish to hear His word and respond to it with our whole being. We wish to know His merciful will and submit to it in its totality. I have spoken to you about prayer, meditation, contemplation. Is our way of submitting our will to God and to praise Him. Thank you.